How's it going, everybody? I'm the BTC Reaper. My goal on this channel is to teach you how to reap the rewards of trading, whether price is going up or down. So we are trying to come back up. We are trying to come above our EMA level today, but our money flow is struggling to get above that neutral. If the money flow does not break above this neutral and we see a rejection, we are likely going to get another push to the downside. Back here, we got a rejection of neutral, push down. Back here, we got a rejection of neutral, push down. So if we get another rejection of neutral on the daily money flow, it's very likely the VWAP will roll over here, push us down, and we'll see another leg to the downside to continue breaking down. Our RSI is overall trending out, stochastic's overall pushing down. It does want to make a rebound here. So if the stochastic can rebound and our VWAP can get some strength, if our VWAP can get up around these zones and then stay bullish, then we could continue to push upwards toward this golden pocket. However, if that VWAP starts to flop over here and that money flow starts to reject here, then it is very likely we would continue our downtrend. Over on Bitcoin dominance, we are starting to push down with our stochastic. Our RSI is overall pushing out. Momentum is starting to fall to the bearish side. Money flow is making a little bit of a bounce off neutral, so that is good for dominance. That suggests that dominance could continue to rebound. Our VWAP is trying to continue as well, suggesting that both long-term and medium-term buyers are picking up weight. The VWAP is our medium-term, and the money flow is more of a long-term. Over on Bitcoin futures, we did get a bit of a gap up, way above a lot of our EMA levels, so we could end up rejecting down, filling that gap very quickly, which if we do that, then we would see a push to the lower gap. However, if we continue to the upside from here, this is an inverted hammer candle, so it is a bit of a topping pattern. So if it's followed by a red candle, we drop down, but if it continues up from here, our next stop would likely be this gapped area back here. Stochastic is trying to make a bullish cross. RSI wants to head up. That VWAP wants to cross neutral, but the money flow is really not going anywhere. So even though price action tried to jump up here, bears ultimately have all the control, and we do have a red candle. So it's a little bit of a weird candle. We had kind of a scam jump between these candles that caused it to jump up and open high. Over on Bitcoin, we are trying to push back into our golden pocket. So like I said before, this could propel us forward. This could push us around the point control of our volume profile. Then we could try to trend to the value area high, at which point we could start a rejection somewhere above that if we are going to maintain this bearish trend and reject our overall ascending channel retest that we still have not gotten. Our stochastic is starting to get a bullish cross. RSI wants to bounce forward, the money flow wants to push forward, and the momentum wants to continue. The VWAP is trying to go into the bullish territory here, so if that VWAP can cross with some strength, we will see continual bullish action. However, if the money flow and VWAP start to round here, it is very likely we will get a pretty decent drop to the downside. Over on the 4-hour, we have a little bit of a long upper shadow candle. We covered what those were a few days ago. If you're not familiar with what those are, visit the short that we made a few days ago. Our stochastic is trying to run up, RSI is trying to push forward, that momentum's pushing forward, VWAP is trying to run up, and the money flow is pushing into the bullish territory. If this money flow can continue and push a little bit higher, if it were to start to round from there, that could still start a bullish trend. However, if it breaks here, that would be a pretty consistent high, and we could see a bearish action still continue if we fall into the bearish territory from there. But then either way, if we don't break below this -7 zone, it is very likely bullish action could resume and we could pick back up. So I would watch for a complete rejection under that zone. Our 2 hour is trying to make a tweezer top, but it's not going very successfully today. Just like back here, that did cause some sideways action and then a pump up. So if we do that again, we could get more sideways action and then possibly a pump back up to this zone. If you look, this could be a very goofy cup and handle, as this would be our cup. Even if you wanted to count this, if you want to count this as your neckline, right here, this would be your cup. We could come back down, make a cleaner handle, or you consider this your cup, your handle, and we could be on the start of a push to the upside, which would possibly trend us around this zone back here. If we're able to break through that zone, we could see continued bullish action. However, if we meet resistance and start getting bearish patterns, it is likely we could fall back down and try to retest this other pattern again. Our stochastic is making a bearish cross. Momentum is pushing down. VWAP is heading down very sharply. Our VWAP is getting very close to that neutral. It wants to break bearish. So if our VWAP breaks bearish here, we could see a break to the downside. Back here when we made that tweezer top, we were coming down as well, but we kind of sustained ourselves. The bearish action for that VWAP didn't really amount to very much. Then we went back bullish and we kind of kept wavering between the two, and then we picked back up once the VWAP started to pick up in the bullish territory. So what you're looking for is that sideways action to actually decide which way it wants to go. This was kind of a fake out as it got a lower low here. You would have expected it to drop through, but if you would have waited for the next candle, you would have saw we were starting to bounce off of support. Over on the 1 hour, we are starting a bit of a rounding top. We have an inverted hammer candle. That was a long lower shadow candle, but it was followed by a long upper shadow candle. So again, I encourage you to watch that short. We have a double red dot here in our momentum. It does want to round away. Stochastic's pushing down. RSI is trending out. That money flow wants to fall to the bearish side, and the VWAP is in the bearish territory. If this VWAP continues to pick up momentum to the downside, it is very likely we'll break the bottom of our golden pocket and continue back down into this pattern. Over on graph on the daily, we are trying to push forward. We could have a bit of a breakup from our cup and handle possibilities here as well. I believe we had those on other coins. RSI is trying to trend up. Stochastic's trying to push forward. Our VWAP wants to head up, and our money flow is trying to pick up into the bullish territory. Our momentum has a double green dot, which wants to push us forward. So we are looking decent here, but this is just more retracement of a pretty decent drop. So do keep that in mind as well. Real quick, if you haven't already, smash that like and subscribe to the channel. Also, join the Discord. We had to do some changes to the statue. People in the Discord know what's going on. Also, if you want to see any updates, like we have daily updates on what's going on in the markets, or if there's going to be a late stream, we'll say something there. The 4 hour, we are trying to get a little bit of a push. This was our cup, our handle, and then we are trying to break up, but we're kind of going sideways here. Watch out for that sideways action. If we start to fall down, this could invalidate this pattern, and then we may not try to trend back to our resistance up above here. Our money flow is trying to cross to the bullish territory. That VWAP's getting close to cross into the bullish territory, and the momentum does want to get a green dot to continue to ride up this overbought area. But the stochastic's starting to come out, and the RSI is starting to point down. So those are pointing to some weakness that we could start to point down with our price action. I would watch the lower time frames to kind of see how the money flow and VWAP are doing. Over on the 2 hour, the momentum's overall trending out. We are trying to get a little bit of a push down here as our VWAP is starting to break to the bearish side. If we make a new low here with our VWAP, we would confirm a bearish trend, as we have lower highs currently, so a lower low would start a bearish trend. As stochastic does want to get a bearish cross and drop back down, which is weakening our RSI and helping bring everything else down. That's why the 4 hour looks pretty weak, because they're already weaker here on the 2 hour, and they were weakening a little faster than this VWAP and momentum. Over on the 1 hour, we do have a possibility of a double top here. You see that M, that's a double top. That could end up pushing us down to this like 8-cent zone. If we break that 8-cent zone, then we would break back down to around where we had this kind of support resistance area. At which point, if we break from that, then our bigger pattern could push us lower. Our momentum is getting bearish divergence. RSI is starting to head out. Stochastic's starting to push down. That VWAP is pushing into the bearish territory, and the money flow is getting close to breaking into the bearish territory as well. If that VWAP continues down and continues this bearish trend, it is very likely the money flow will do the same, and we'll see a pretty decent move to the downside. Over on Anchor for the daily, we are continuing up. We are trying to get across of these two EMA levels. If they do cross, we will try to push through this yellow EMA, but we are rejecting that yellow EMA for our price action, so keep that in mind as well. RSI is trying to trend up. Our stochastic wants to get a push to the upside. That VWAP is trying to pick up, and the money flow is trying to get a push off that neutral. So overall, we are maintaining some bullish strength here. If that continues, that could push us up, and we could leave this gap behind. But remember, gaps are 80% likely to fill, so I would watch the lower time frames to make sure they don't show weakness. Over here on the 4 hour, we do have a slight gap to the upside. We could snap up and fill. We did reject a cross above our highest EMA. We are currently fighting with our second highest, and if we break this, our other EMAs are very close together, and it would probably be a pretty quick drop to support down here. Stochastic is falling, RSI is falling. We have a double red dot on that momentum. That's starting to roll away and push down. That money flow is kind of trending out. We're getting lower highs. We're maintaining our lows though. So it's staying within bullish momentum and staying in a bullish territory. Our VWAP is heading toward the bearish territory though. If that VWAP breaks down and continues lower, then we could possibly see this money flow start to get exhausted. However, if they start to just zigzag here, we could maintain this range and try to push above like you've seen on that daily. Over on the 2 hour, we are getting lower highs with consistent lows on price. That could form a descending triangle. That descending triangle could break this region right here. If we break that support resistance area, then we would likely move toward that support down here for our pattern, as we would break these EMA levels and there wouldn't be really anything in between there. RSI is overall heading out. The momentum's getting bearish divergences, and that's starting to head down. Our money flow is starting to push down after trying to maintain around the 17 and trying to push up. If this money flow breaks to the bearish side, we will see price action drop. However, if this money flow maintains and just like peaks into the bearish territory, we could just zigzag, maintain this higher zone, and try to trend up. But if the money flow and VWAP just break to the bearish side and hold pretty strongly, we're likely going to see a flush out. Things are getting pretty tight. It looks like we do want to spool up for one move, a pretty strong move. Not sure which way it's going to go. I'm betting more bearish as we have more gaps to the downside. And it'd be better to see the gaps to the downside fill. But that doesn't necessarily mean just because it's better we'll do it, and just because the gaps to the downside are older we'll do it. Sometimes crypto does some weird stuff. Our momentum is pushing out. Our VWAP's in the bearish territory. We're getting lower highs on our VWAP. So if we start to get lower highs with lower lows, we would start a bearish trend. At which point, then if we start zigzagging and fluttering, we would have bearish strength, dragging us lower. So it would be the opposite of what we could see happen now. Our money flow is trying to push out. Stochastic's starting to trend out. RSI is overall trending out. And that money flow is trying to push to the bearish territory with our momentum falling into the bearish territory. So if this VWAP continues down, we're likely going to see this triangle break down and push us lower, as we did fill the gap on the hourly. Over on XRP, we could still make that double bottom here. Very zigzaggy leg up there, but could still make a double bottom. Maybe we repeat that zigzagness. We are rejecting that EMA. RSI is pretty flat. The momentum is in the bearish territory. It does want to get a green dot, as our VWAP has some bullish strength, but not very much. I would keep a very close eye on the VWAP here. If it rolls over and crosses into the bearish territory without making a new high, then it is very likely we could continue down from here. Momentum's pushing down with the green dot, but again, that green dot could be short-lived if that VWAP just rolls over. Our stochastic does want to push forward. Our RSI is starting to go flat, as our stochastic has no strength. So if our stochastic rolls over on the lower time frames here, it is likely our RSI is going to start to do the same. Over on the 4-hour, we are trying to break above our higher EMA and hold. We were not able to do that yesterday, so we'll have to see if we can maintain this level. We do still have a bit of an ascending triangle that could form here to try to push us up, so I would watch for that possibility. Our stochastic does have bearish cross. RSI is starting to head down. The momentum is starting to round out, as our VWAP is starting to get lower highs and looking a little dicey. As if the VWAP comes down to this neutral and doesn't get a strong push anywhere above this -4, then it is very likely we will break to the bearish side and not see that pattern play out. However, if we dip to the -4 and get a really strong push up with that money flow following it, it is likely we could see a push to this resistance area, which would try to be a retest of our previous flag. Over on the 2-hour, we are starting to round away from this yellow EMA and test our other EMA. If we break through at this point, we keep touching this EMA, making it weaker. So if we break through, it is very likely we will start to trend down. Usually when you break above your EMAs, you don't stay above them for too long if you're going to maintain your trend. If you look at the screen, we have been above it for quite some time. The yellow we did reject, but if we look more towards here, the green, and we weren't able to stay above it, we dropped, price action moved down. Here, green, weren't able to stay above it, dropped, price action moved down. So you see that happening time and time again. And if you stretch back, we broke above the yellow and the blue significantly back here. And then we ultimately kind of trended out. We weren't able to hold above the green, fell away to the blue, tried to make it support, broke through back to the yellow. We came to the higher ones and then got pretty tight. But I hope that gives you the idea of how these EMAs and SMAs can work and help. So us being above these ones could show that we may see a snap to the downside if we're not able to break through our higher ones and make one of those a support. Stochastic's starting to push out. Our momentum has a double red dot and it's starting to roll away. That VWAP is struggling to get above this 17 zone, so if it doesn't break above this zone, it is very likely price action could start a downtrend, especially if our VWAP gets a new low. Our money flow does want to break through the neutral, but it got a rejection and started a new low, so if we roll over and make a lower high, it is very likely a bearish trend could start here. Over on the 1 hour, we might have a bit of a goofy double top, probably the most goofy one I've seen, that could end up dropping us down. I would watch out for that. We are not able to hold this higher EMA on this lower time frame. If this continues, we will not touch it on the higher time frames, and then that means those higher time frames will start to pull away like I was mentioning. Stochastic's starting to come out, RSI is starting to trend out. We have a double red dot here. Our RSI has a red dot, momentum has a red dot. That money flow wants to trend out, and that VWAP is breaking that bearish territory, making a new low. So if we come up, make a lower high, we will have a bearish trend that could take over and drop us down. Last but not least, on algo for the night, we are rejecting our EMA level and start resuming some downtrend unlike the rest of the market, so we are retracing gains and starting a new downtrend here. RSI is starting to pull out. Stochastic wants to run up, but it's very tight. Our money flow is above the bullish territory, not very strongly though, same with that VWAP, so we are in danger of them rolling over. If we continue with red candles after this one, and we push the support, then it is very likely we could break it as we have touched the top of our pattern a few times. Over on the 4 hour here, price action starting to drop pretty drastically from a red X. We are breaking below our EMA levels, starting to reject them, and heading to support. Stochastic is pushing down from a bearish divergence, RSI is falling, and the momentum is starting to fall pretty drastically as well. The money flow is pushing away from that neutral, and the VWAP is picking up bearish strength. We are getting lower highs with lower lows, so if that continues, it is very likely we will continue bearish action. Over on the 2 hour, RSI is starting to round away. Our stochastic is heading toward that neutral. It did reject a bullish cross and it is pushing down. That VWAP is starting to round away, rejecting away from neutral as well, so if we come down and make a lower low or a consistent low, we could start a bit of a bearish trend that could break us down. My money flow is struggling to maintain bullish strength, so if that VWAP starts to push out, that bullish strength is likely going to fade away, and we will pick up bearish strength and resume a downtrend, very much like this one back here. Our momentum is starting to push out, so overall everything's looking quite more bearish than bullish. Over on the 1 hour, our stochastic is pushing out, RSI is pushing out, that VWAP's getting lower highs with consistent lows, the momentum is pushing out, and the money flow is starting to inch its way out with the bearish trend, so the 1 hour is ultimately in a bearish trend, bearish environment. If this continues, it will leak over to the higher time frames and start to inch price down even lower and possibly break this support and us see this flag finally play out. Thank you for watching tonight's video. I hope you have a wonderful night.